Good morning and welcome to Inside Story. I'm Tamala Edwards, and again, our guest this morning is City Council President Darrell Clarke. Always good to have you here.
A pleasure.
And everywhere you go, I'm sure people want to talk about soda tax, so let's do it here.
Absolutely.
What is your sense at this moment? Is something, we may not know the details, is something going to pass on sugary beverage tax?
Well, first I'd like to say that these are very worthy causes, and everybody understands that you got to do pre-K. Early education is extremely important. Having our recreation centers and our libraries fixed to the level that they should be is very important. So I don't think there's any argument there. How do you get there? This proposal is a narrowly based tax, and it has created the level of division that I haven't seen in quite some time. People are extremely passionate on both sides of the issue because you're talking about children, but you're also talking about the potential loss of jobs. So we're getting that level of debate in the council, in the street, wherever you go. People want to talk about sugary tax drinks. So I think at some point we will come up with a solution because we do need to figure out a way to do these very worthy causes. I'm not sure how we do them. The actual implementation phase is still not clear to me. I have a lot of questions, as other members do, as it relates to why do you set up a totally new pre-K system when there already is a pre-K system? Why don't you just give the money to the existing pre-K system? How do we get the diversity that we need to have as it relates to construction on new rec centers and libraries? All of those things need to be discussed.
Let's take both ends of that question. Let's start with the money. Everybody that I've called in City Hall, nobody thinks 3 cents is happening. And it's a question of where it comes down the scale. Right. Some people say 2, some people say 1. You put out some things your staff looked at. What if it was 1/4 cent? What if it was 1/2 cent? You personally, where do you think this ends up? Because you ask questions in the budget meetings about revenue. Right. What is that sweet spot where you raise a decent amount of revenue and you think it'll work?
Well, we prepared a document that was given to members, somehow got out in the press, and that things happen. And the reality is we laid out the revenues associated with 1/2 cent, 1/4 cent, 3/4 cent, a penny. The penny will raise approximately $57 million. There's some thought that that could actually run all of the programs. I'm assuming the administration doesn't think that's enough. But the reality is if we can address all of those particular programs, I think that's most important. Will there be the need to do additional dollars? That's probably not the only way you can get by a sugary drink tax, but that's the purpose of having a debate and sitting down and looking at the revenue side of this to make sure that we can do something for these young people.
Is the idea that maybe you get some from this and something else happens? People have talked about court fees, about finding money in the budget, about container tax. Will any of those things get moving, or it's just talk?
Well, there are a lot of things that we can do, but you do, and I agree with the mayor, that you do need to have one level of funding for this program that is going to be sustainable. But then there's some question about that, because you have one side of the equation where people are saying, well, you got to drop down consumption of sugar. But as you drive down consumption of sugar, you drive down the revenue. What's more important, health or the ability to fund the program? So that needs to be clear as to what our priorities are on that one.
What are you hearing from the mayor about how this actually happens? Where would these seats be? What would the standards be? Could I open up a pre-K in my kitchen and come up with whatever standards I want? Was something going to be laid out? Have you heard answers to that question?
Well, they have a proposal. The Pre-K Commission has worked on it for quite some time, and they talked about the star system, 1, 2, 3, 4, star system 3 and 4 is our quote-unquote quality pre-Ks. A number of the 2s and probably 1s, we would like to see them have an opportunity to become 3 and 4s. I am concerned, and I've said it publicly, about the notion that you have a pre-K system that has no income guidelines. The reality is every federal, state, and other programs talked about a cap 300% above the poverty level. For whatever reason, this proposal does not have that. So I don't know why, to some degree, we should be subsidizing individuals who can clearly pay with taxpayer dollars. I don't know why we have to set up a system when we currently have existing systems that do a good job as it relates to administering pre-K programs. So the kind of conversation that we'll be having over the next 2 weeks.
You keep saying, I don't know why. Are you hearing enough from Mayor Kinney, the answers to those questions, and are you surprised if you're not?
Well, I'm not talking directly to Mayor Kinney. These are conversations that are had in the budget hearings about these programs. I think it's clearly something that we have to do. I mean, there's no doubt about it. How we do it and when we do it is obviously something that we're going to work out in the next 2 weeks. I'd like to have a better perspective on some of the other opportunities that exist as it relates to funding. I think there's a number of places we can find some money to support this if the sugary tax, in fact, gets implemented. But that's going to happen relatively soon, so stay tuned.
All right. What I'm hearing is something will happen, but maybe not 3 cents, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, we're going to do pre-K, and to make it clear, we're going to do pre-K, figure out the way to support pre-K, and we're going to figure out a way to support our infrastructure as it relates